how you can see the influence everybody had on James. Hey lovelies, I just finished Watch Me. I know I said I would do a Stranger Things video this week, but I'm gonna leave that to next week. Just kind of watch what's going on, kind of how it affects everybody in the community. Let me cook a little bit longer on that. It will be worth it, trust. But for Watch Me, Tahereh Mafi strikes again with just creating a great story. We start off with one of our new characters, Rosabella, and oh boy. So I'm gonna put a few trigger warnings for child abuse, government surveillance, and yourself. Yeah. So this is about 10 years after the ending of the main series, and the reestablishment has gone to the Ark, or this solitary island, and they've basically brought everybody into this hive mind. It's kind of giving internet, it's kind of giving AI, because now nobody has secrets. Everybody can log into another person's mind and see what they're seeing, think what they're thinking. It's kind of scary. Increasingly so. I definitely feel like Tahereh Mafi was playing with the idea of like AI and like what it could do. And we'll talk about the main villain because he seems so, I guess it seems so interesting to me, but like I'm interested. But Rosabella is the daughter of one of the regent sectors, and her father switched sides. He's now with the New Republic with our boy Warner. Her mother, instead of being a mom, decided to, when her two children were very young. Of course, this did not forgive their father's betrayal to the establishment. Um, and now they get to live in a pit while everybody else is vibing. For those of you who have seen the Running Man movie or have read the book, it's very similar vibes. The desirables are living it up, they're getting enough food, and the undesirables, they're underfed. And the way that they treat Clara, Rosabella's younger sister, is wow. Wow. She's sick because she's been malnourished for since she was like 3 years old and such. And Rosabella has done what she could to make sure they both stay alive. She's basically done the things that the wealthy don't want to do. She's very much Anderson, but more backed into a corner. She didn't really have that choice. Plus, she was raised to be an assassin from a young age, so she's just kind of there. And she's trying to bargain. And there's a hint of marrying this guy, Sebastian. We'll get to him later. But it's very clearly obvious that one, Rosabella cannot get into the Nexus, the network, where even the animals are connected for spy reasons. And oh boy, that plays such a big part. And it was a real nail biter. It had me on the edge of my seat for so many pages. It was so good, man. But then we switch over to James' POV, and he's kind of giving Adam. You can definitely see Adam's influence in how he doesn't want to be a kid anymore, and he really just wants to prove himself. So what does he do? He gets himself captured. It's not the brightest move. And we really get to see more of his power, which the reestablishment has slowly been getting rid of everybody. They've killed off that gene. And James James is so funny. He's kind of like a mix of all the characters from the original series. I can see a lot of Kenji, a lot of Adam, a lot of Warner, and it's really cool to see just how the people we grow up, we get their little habits. Like, it's so fun to see just from like 10-year-old James to like 20-year-old James. Like, feels like I've just watched him grow up, which is honestly super cool. But he's hungry, and they've pretty much taken everything away from him except for a pack of gummy bears. So as he is shoving these gummy bears into his face, Rosabella walks in, and she's kind of silent. And he's like, "Aw, an android. She kind of cute though. Let's screw with the android." So he starts to screw with her, and Rosabella's like, hi, actually human here." And he's like, "Oh." And immediately it's giving Warner and Juliet, and there's immediately tension. They're like, damn, could kiss that. And Rosabella carries out her job in his throat, and then he's taken to the gunnery. Not the gunnery, on a gunnery to be autopsied. And of course, he wakes up because of his power. Of course, he can still, if the wound isn't exactly like severing his head, pretty much. If it's just like here, he'll be fine, but any further, he might take a few days, or just wake up. Which I do find his power really interesting. But holy cow! So he wakes up and he basically flees. And then we switch back to Rosabella's POV, and I really am struggling to remember the big bad's name, but it's basically this machine. And James, when he's escaping, he takes out a lot of guards, including Rosabella's direct supervisor. And she gets shanked because he's a little mad that she, try to like kill him, but he pauses for a minute when she begs him not to let them harm her sister, and he's like, the serial killer kind of has a heart. No, I can't think about cursing her. Pretty much that. But he runs off, and then we switch back to Rosabella's POV, and she's shoved into this place called the Cradle, and it's kind of like a big water tank. And she meets Klaus. Klaus is the AI kind of working with the Nexus. It was a part of the reestablishment that started long before even the series began with Shatter Me. And he is honestly horrifying. We find out very quickly that James was dunked into the cradle a while to get a script of 24 hours. Like, down to the tiny details. As Rosabella and this other officer are watching him, the officer is saying the script of things he does even before he does it. And there are a few errors in the script which causes this officer alarm, because even this tiniest mistake cannot be, because it has to be perfect to make sure nothing like the main series Shatter Me happens again. Of course, she could pull the bad guys one, but I don't think it's with the core of the story. But just seeing this is and then she gets an invitation that morning before she went to James. She got a letter, and she didn't open it or anything, but not Kenji, James does, and it's an invitation to her wedding. she did not consent to being married to Sebastian. They might have been betrothed as children, but there was no yes. Granted, when Sebastian leverages her sister's safety, she eventually complies. But she's taken to be interrogated. Now, once a month, she has to be interrogated because she's not connected to the Nexus, the hive mind. And it is awful. They basically wire into her brainwaves, and it's kind of like a lie detector. And it's painful. She's struggling. And after she's done, she begs her fiance for water. And he's like, "Aw, your food stamps aren't in yet, babe. So as soon as those come in, I can get you water, but not right now." And when I tell you, lovelies, I had to shut the book. And I just sat there for 10 minutes because this 20-year-old girl was just put through an immense amount of torture and very close to having permanent brain damage. Yet you, as her fiance, can't just give her a sip of water. And you see this a lot in the reestablishment where even play fighting, there were actually the first chapter of the book, these two boys are play fighting and one of them loses their rations for the week. Mind you, this is a child. And water should not be something you have to earn. We need it to live. Everyone deserves the right to live. America, with the Constitution, of course, isn't going to apply to everywhere, but it's a good example. We always have the right to life, liberty, and the right of happiness and quality of life. If we don't have quality of life, we are living in subhuman conditions. We are being oppressed. But of course, the reestablishment uses this. They use that need, they use the basic human necessities and quality of living as leverage to make you comply. They don't have any qualms about using your families as leverage to get you to do what they want. And we see this in a lot of different characters she meets later on in a therapy building. But and then we switch back to James, and he has stolen a plane. And he's chilling with the guy he just murked. And his name is Jeff. And we see a lot of Kenji in James right now because James is like, Jeff, why do you have a chocolate bar with do not eat? You look fine. You're a great weight. Like, come on, man. I love James. I love James so much. Because we learn that he didn't stay with Adam. Sorry, I just got really lightheaded. I'm okay. But he went to live with Warner pretty much right after the series ended with Believe Me, because James settled, not James, Adam settled down with Alia and they had 2 kids. And Adam became the snack dad, which honestly fits him really well in the series. He was always caring so much for James, and now he just gets to chill out and be snack dad. I love that for him. Oh, so much. But James eventually crashes down into the pit, or this place where all the undesirables are, and he picks up Rosabella and they flee. And she fixes the plane mid-flight, and he's like, "How did you do that? Are you like a spy or something?" And she's like, "No, I needed work, and this is a civilian one, and I worked on these when I was allowed to, so let's go. Don't throw me in the ocean, and trust." Of course, Rosabella is an agent for the reestablishment. They have kidnapped her sister. That is the reason why Kenji took her. Clara was being taken to one of the asylums, like the one Juliet was in the very beginning of the series, and she's like, no. And of course, Sebastian basically lied about keeping Clara safe. He said he would give her freedom, the freedom of death. And of course, our girl Rosabella bludgeoned him on the head and threw away her engagement ring. We love a queen. We love to see it. And then she faints after James asks her when the last time she ate was. And then we're back with the main cast of the last series. And they're all pretty mad, increasingly, especially Kenji, Adam, and Warner. Warner most of all. And they're fighting about it a little bit, but James gets put on to Rosabella's rehabilitation project. And Rosabella is not doing great. She's a little trigger happy. There's this guy. There's this guy. Creepy. Like, he calls her my sweet Rosa. Like, back off, dude. You've known her for like 2 sessions. But she's kind of has good reputation with the others. Yes, she might be a little violent, but there's this guy who keeps stealing this other guy's slippers, and she gets it back for him. And like, they're super fun. Of course, she's struggling with Ian, who is honestly having Ian Sanchez as a therapist just makes sense. It makes so much sense for his character. He had a lot of dry humor, which I think translates great to being a therapist. Honestly, one of the best character developments. But it was so much fun. Of course, she's trying to look for this vial of earth. And then she gets it from Creepy Guy. And so the vial's an explosive, except she has to eat it, die, be buried in the ground, and then it will like slowly leach everything. So that's not fun. And she's like, great, the reestablishment hates me. I'm done playing with them. I'm gonna be my own side because this side sucks, and I'm on myself and I can save my sister, I suppose. So she gets in massive trouble, because Creepy Guy basically is possessed by Klaus. And he's like, and then he explodes everywhere. But of course, to Warner, it looks like, you know, Rosabella did it. And then she stops her heart, and then we find out that technology doesn't really work on Rosabella. That's her power, which I love that. Ugh, love that. That's why she could never be connected to the Nexus. Every time they attempted, the technology would just shut down. So Girly stops her heart for a second and wakes up in the autopsy room, and she immediately starts fighting with Kenji. And side note here, unfortunately for Kenji and Azara fans and Brennan and Winston fans, they are on a little bit of a break because Naz wanted to go back to her country and kind of get acquainted with her people. Of course, she still comes back once in a while, and Kenji is avoiding her. Breakups, I know, they're not broken up, they're just on break. I know, but Brennan also wanted to go to see the world, and Winston, being a little bit older, was like, I want to stay here and work on my tools and my inventions, so love you, babe. We'll be on break. And of course, poor Kenji and Winston are so sad. Like, I can guarantee you they will be back together by the end of the series, though. I can guarantee it. But as Kenji and Rosabella are fighting, Kenji gets caught, and he basically tells Warner to run away because he does not want Warner's and Juliet's kid to grow up fatherless like he did. And man, I cried. Because with Kenji's past, it just makes so much sense. Like, oh, he didn't want the kid to grow up like him. Also, by the way, Jules, is Prego. They were a little surprised. It did take them the full 10 years. And this is where we see her parents' just diabolical nature. Because she was forcibly sterilized very young and they didn't think she could have kids. And then they were surprised by a kid. And of course, they wanted it and are keeping it. But I hope everything with that goes okay because she still hasn't popped. She still is pregnant with this kid so far. But oh, scary, scary times. And of course, Warner throughout the whole book is like, hey, I know you really want to kiss her. Don't kiss her. And of course, brothers be like each other. And honestly, not gonna lie, I was like, Warner, she literally shot you, and you were like, she wants to kiss me. And then with James, it's like, damn, she stabbed me a few times. She must love me. Like, dude, these two. So James is walking Rosabella underground to avoid like people and her escaping. And there's so much tension. He's like, damn, I kind of hate you for like threatening my family, but like, and of course, they get interrupted by this other guy who's like forcibly, like way too rough with her, and like they have like electric cuffs, and it hurts her, and of course they dial it down. They're like, sorry, the guy's like, sorry. It's just on the normal setting. Like, bitch, check that before. Check that before. But eventually they're like, yeah, let's have Hugo interrogate her. And Rosalind's like, ooh. Now, who was Hugo? You might be asking. Um, Great question. So, we take a slight jump back into history to a conversation we've seen before with Rosabella and her parents. And do you want to know what her father's name is? Hugo. Hugo Wolf is about to interrogate his own daughter. And that's where the book ends. Do I have thoughts on this book? First of all, 5 out of 5 stars. And yes, I give a lot of books 5 out of 5 stars. But I rate on how much I enjoyed the book. Of course, the grammar, the prose, how well it's written plays a back part in that. But I'm just here for a good time. I'm just here for a ride. But what I really liked about this book is a lot of the references to characters' past. They don't just get mentioned once and then fade away. They get brought back and are integral to the characters. And I love that. I love seeing that. I love how James is like, any romance is ruined for me because of the love that Warner and Juliet have. And it's so sweet. Hi, baby doll. My dog just came in. Do you want to come say hello? Come here, babies. Come on, come say hello. This is Daffodil. She's really sweet. I know. What do you want to say? You want to say anything? um, so I got a surprise co-host. Don't eat that, please. Thank you. What do you think of Warner? Mm-hmm. Smart choice. Please don't eat. No, those are not edible. Those are not. My boba earrings are not edible, babies. Thank y'all. Co-host has decided she wants water. This book. And just the way the reestablishment has changed from this totalitarian to even more. And this book reminded me of 1984. That book had a lot of discussion about thought crime, and there could be no thought crime because nobody really is in your head. But with Watch Me, with them actually being in their head, and honestly, dystopian novels are always about the present. With AI becoming more prevalent and the internet becoming more prevalent, a dictatorship really could create something like the Nexus, which is super scary because we're incredibly close to our thoughts not being our own. Granted, even with the internet, people, not everybody, but some people like to regurgitate inside thoughts onto the internet. Not great, and I feel like we need a little bit of forethought before we post certain things or anything really, just to not only not say before on the internet, but to protect ourselves. It's good and great to be vague about where you live. But when that is forcibly taken from you, and especially with how the reestablishment works with the pit, even a hint of, even a subconscious thought of rebellion could get you a miserable life for not only you, but your whole entire family. The reestablishment has always been, it's not just you who gets punished, it's your entire bloodline. And that is terrifying to think about. Ugh. I love this series so much. It's so good. Ugh. And I do appreciate the slow burn. Not only to let Rosabella and James heal from the trauma that they had, but romance is never really a fast thing. It's slow sometimes, depending, of course, if you've been, actually, even if you were childhood friends, there's still that slow development of just figuring things out if you're actually going to work with the other person. And Tahereh Mafi does that really well. In Shatter Me, it took 3 whole books for them to get together, which, it's nice. It's more natural than just the quick fall in love. True love kind of exists. I've definitely felt that with some of my friends. I've just looked at them and I'm like, I'm gonna make you my best friend. And it's worked a few times. But friendship is just, it's still great to have friends, but romance is almost a step above friendship, because friendship, you're not, friends are just so entangled together. You don't really have that. I don't really know how to put this into words, but with friendship, you don't really have to worry about how you live together. Of course, with roommates, it's a very nuanced subject, and I'm really only not even scratching the surface. But with looking for a partner, you have to make sure you're compatible, that the other person is good with their finances, because as much as you love another person, having them drain your bank account and leaving you with not enough money for groceries that week is genuinely toxic. Of course, with friends, you don't have to worry about, of course, you have to still worry about compatibility and how you mesh together. A topic for another time, but I love how Tahereh Mafi writes both friendship and platonic roles. It's so sweet to see. And I can't wait for the next book to come out. Oh, it's going to be a great journey again. And I have so many thoughts on the next book I'm reading, Light Lark. But I believe that for that book review, which should be coming out in 2 weeks, hopefully, I have to get finished with book 1. I'm like 200 pages in. I'll get into that video, but I really, next week, of course, we should be getting into Stranger Things. If I have to push it out, I'll push it out. I'm pretty much just doing this channel for fun. I'm kind of seeing where it goes, but for now, lovelies, go drink a glass of water, get a cookie, and I love you. All right, bye bye now.